Hi guys, good evening, and welcome back once again to the EdWord. I'm your host Eddie, and in tonight's video I will be giving you my long overdue episode review for the latest installment of the horror anthology series from Hulu, Into the Dark. Their latest episode dropped about a month ago. It was around or close to 4th of July, and even though the story itself isn't necessarily centered around the 4th of July, it is about a guy who thinks he is the president, or he is the president in a dangerous situation. Now, before I begin, of course, please be warned, this is a spoiler-filled review. If you have not seen this installment of Into the Dark, don't keep watching or listening to this video, as I will be discussing spoilers, characters, plot details, all that jazz. So, you have been warned. That being said, let's dive back into it. First and foremost, this was not my favorite episode of Into the Dark. There were some cool visuals, a somewhat interesting premise. Basically, it had both the main character and the audience asking, is the President of the United States being detained against his will as a patient in a psychiatric mental hospital, or does a psychiatric mental hospital patient believe he is the President of the United States? And the entire recurring theme throughout the whole episode is this real? Is this fake? Is this real? Is this fake? You know, a lot of old Star Trek episodes used to do that, like mostly from Star Trek Next Generation, and then a few from Deep Space Nine and probably the original series. I'm not big fan of those particular episodes or those kind of stories, because it can get so confusing and muddled. You just don't know like what the actual story is, or what's really happening and what isn't happening. This one I felt was a bit more clear and cut. You know, it also helped that I read a recap of this episode right after I was done watching it, because a few things didn't make sense to me, but after reading the recap it made a lot more sense. Like I said, it had an interesting premise, but it should have had a clearer ending. Well, scratch that. The ending itself was pretty clear. It turns out he really was just a mental asylum patient who had pretty much lost his mind due to the overwhelming guilt that his wife was killed at a presidential rally that they were attending, when a would-be assassin opened fire, hit several people, this guy and his wife included, and she died in his arms, and then he went insane with the guilt of her death and ended up in this mental asylum. And then he started believing, to cope with his wife's death, he starts believing he's the President of the United States, and another patient is his Secretary of State. Gotta say, I liked the actress who played the Secretary of State. She was pretty good. And everybody did a great job. But, you know, at the same time, though, it was a very kind of confusing story. Very back and forth with is this real? Is it fake? Is this real? Is it fake? And that shit just kind of gets old after a while. I would also classify this as way more of a psychological thriller than straight up horror. And that's not because of a lack of monsters or slashers or whatever, but it just felt like way more of a mind game, because this was definitely one of the most mind-bending episodes Into the Dark has ever done. Definitely one of their the most trippiest episode as well. And like I said, it wasn't my favorite. I liked the concept, but its execution, it had some moments. I liked that he finally took that air tank thing and smacked the hell out of that orderly who was abusing him. That was kind of satisfying. But then, of course, the guy came back to him at the final scene and brought him out of the elevator. But, oh well. Now, I don't know if we're getting any more episodes for the rest of the year due to COVID. I haven't seen any promos for the next episode, if there is a next episode. I don't think one has dropped for August yet, so I don't know. And as soon as I do see an episode, I'll, of course, do a review for it. But in the meantime, just stay on your toes and keep watching and listening to the EdWord. Thank you so much for listening to my episode review of the current Occupant. I hope you enjoyed this episode a lot more than I did. Thanks for watching. Have a great rest of your night. And, of course, until next time, may the Force be with you.